What if everything you thought you knew about money was wrong? Allow me to expand on this tantalizing question by introducing you to Stephanie Kelton, a figure whose groundbreaking ideas have challenged and shifted our traditional views on finance and economics. Stephanie Kelton, a titan in the field of economic thinking, emerged in the midst of the tumultuous 2008 financial crisis. She was not just an observer to the chaos. She was an active participant, an academic economist whose voice resonated far beyond the confines of university lecture halls. Kelton's ideas had the power to transform the way we thought about the role of government in an economy, money creation, and the very nature of debt. The traditional perception was that debts were something to be avoided, akin to a ticking time bomb waiting to explode and bring devastation. Kelton, however, challenged this view. She believed in a different reality, a universe where governments could create money out of thin air and where debts were no longer burdensome, but instead tools for economic progress. According to Kelton, governments should not always aim to balance their budgets as traditional economic wisdom would suggest. She proposed instead a radical and revolutionary concept: the idea of using deficit spending and money creation not as liabilities, but as financial levers that could stimulate economic growth and unemployment. Kelton's novel ideas, however, were met with more than just a raised eyebrow. The economic community largely dismissed her theories initially. Critics, skeptical of her revolutionary views, labeled her a shoestring economist, a term coined to describe economists who challenged the status quo with minimal funding. But as the financial crisis deepened, as economies teetered on the brink of collapse, and as traditional economic theories failed to provide the solutions that were desperately needed, Kelton's ideas began to spark interest. People started paying attention to Kelton's views on money and debt as they sought new solutions to the mounting economic problems plaguing the world. In years that followed, Kelton's influence grew, like a tree sprouting from a tiny seed. More and more economists and policymakers began to listen to Kelton, to understand her revolutionary economic theories. Her ideas, once dismissed and ignored by her peers, began to gain traction and acceptance among not only her fellow economists, but among policymakers around the world as well. Stephanie Kelton became something of a guiding light in the world of economics, a beacon of radical thought in a sea of traditionalism. Her influence extended beyond the academic sphere, reaching into the realm of politics. In fact, Kelton became an advisor to Bernie Sanders during his presidential campaigns, a role that further cemented her place in the history of economic thought. Her ideas were no longer confined to academia, but were now being discussed in the hallowed halls of Capitol Hill. This was a clear indication of the power and potential of Kelton's theories. Her ideas have triggered a shift in economic thought, a new generation of economists and policymakers who are eager to challenge the status quo and explore new directions in economic policy. In conclusion, Stephanie Kelton has forever altered the landscape of economic thought. Her radical views on money and debt, challenging the established norms and shaking the very foundations of traditional economic theory. It may seem improbable, but imagine a world where governments can create money out of thin air, and debts are not necessarily burdens to be avoided. This is the world as seen through the eyes of one of the most influential economists of our time, Stephanie Kelton. Fast forward to today, and Kelton is back in the spotlight. Her latest book, Money and the Magic of the State, has sparked a new round of debate about the nature of money and the role of government in the economy. In the book, Kelton elaborates on her unique perspective on money. She argues that money is not a scarce resource, but a tool that governments can use to achieve their policy goals. She also contends that debts, rather than being burdens, can be assets if used wisely. Kelton's views are not universally accepted. Critics argue that unchecked money creation can lead to inflation and destabilize the economy. However, even her critics acknowledge that her ideas have forced a rethinking of traditional economic theories. In summary, Stephanie Kelton's rise to prominence during the 2008 financial crisis and her unique views on money and debt have made her one of the most influential economists of our time. Her latest book, Money and the Magic of the State, is a must-read for anyone interested in understanding the complex world of economics and finance. Whether you agree with her or not, there's no denying that Kelton has made a significant impact on the world of economics. Her ideas challenge us to rethink our understanding of money and government, and to consider new ways of managing our economies in these challenging times. And in the end, isn't that what great economists do? They challenge us to think differently, to question our assumptions, and to strive for a better understanding of the world.